All right, guys, welcome back. Since we have the man himself here, and he's a traveling gypsy, we thought we would do a little 10-minute podcast about traveling. Where do you start? How do you plan it? And kind of what goes through your head. And I just figure we'll just ask you since you do it so damn much, Ben.
Yeah, for sure. Like the biggest thing when people always say like, "Oh man, I wish I could do that."
Yeah.
It's like, well, why don't you do it?
For
and then
sure.
like you get the laundry list of like, well, I don't know where to, I get it if you like can't get off work, if you got family obligations, blah blah blah. But it's like I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do. It's like, I don't know. Like to me, tough love, like that's not an excuse anymore.
No shit.
So
many resources.
yes, there's tremendous amount of knowledge
available. Okay, so where do you start? Let's say you want to go somewhere. How do you do it?
Yeah. So let's just say, we want to go shoot ducks somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's just say like, I don't know, Utah, right?
Great.
We want to go to Utah and shoot teal, right? So first thing I honestly do is I will get on, well, first I'll figure out like regular like season dates, right? Like figure out when you can actually legally hunt. And then from there, what I'll do is I'll start honing in on like specific time periods, right? So like there's a lot of great migration resources, right? Refuge counts, that kind of thing. Like, so I'll just Google, I don't know, like Salt Lake refuge or whatever. And I'll come and they'll do refuge counts. And I'll see, okay, like if I'm looking for cinnamon teal or something, I don't even know if this is a thing. This is just
hypothetical.
This is hypothetical.
I like it.
Right? So I'd go look and say, okay, well, this time generally like last 3 years or whatever, generally this seems to be a good time, right? So from there, so I've got kind of the when a little bit, right? At least have an understanding of a better knowledge.
Kind of know when there's typically more birds of that species there or whatever.
But we still don't know where we're going in Utah. Utah's a big state, right?
Yeah.
So like that can vary dramatically. When you look at Montana, one area, and then you go 40 miles away, and like the timing just varies by like a month in terms of when the birds are going to be there. So next thing I'll do is I will, and I'm just trying to learn about the area, learn about the species, whatever, is I'll go on YouTube and I'll just search, like in this case, Utah cinnamon teal hunt or Utah teal hunt. And I'll watch videos, right? You can glean a lot from these videos. Like, okay, are you hunting creeks? Are you hunting potholes? Are you hunting on Salt Lake? Are you hunting, right? Like all these different things.
And a lot of the time, those videos, those guys will start the video and they'll be like, all right, boys, well, it's October here or the weather's like this right now. We've got, it's 15 degrees and we've got a wind. Like a lot of people in hunting videos, they kind of explain like either time of year or kind of what the weather temperature and stuff like that is. So that's going to give you a good idea too.
Yeah, exactly. So like, okay, you've got that knowledge of what you're looking for. Other thing I'll do is I'll Google it, right? And forums are kind of dead now, but there's a tremendous amount of gold back in those forums from the early mid 2000s when people were a little bit more liberal with their information. Like I get it now, like Facebook, I don't want to share anything, right? Because I don't know, it just feels like less of a community, more of a whorehouse.
For sure.
So
refuge forums.
Yeah. Refuge, Nodak Outdoors, all that.
Like, the old school OG. Yeah. The chats.
Yep. So I'll just Google it. And a lot of times I'll just get on rabbit holes of these threads.
Yeah.
And you just glean little pieces of information. So it's like all of a sudden I hear this town name or whatever, and then I'll get on OnX and I'll start honing in like this area. I'll start looking at, all right, there's public land here. And I'll start marking waypoints on all these pieces of public land. Obviously, for waterfowl, it's nice because you find water. That's where the birds are. So refuges, big bodies of water.
Yep.
Start marking those, and then find pieces of public land around it that generally, some states have crops on public land. A lot of them don't. Out west more so. But then I'll start finding these bodies of water on pieces of public and just marking waypoints, right?
Yeah.
And from there, I mean, right there, you're kind of you're equipped. Like at that point, I'm feeling pretty good. But the other thing is I'll find, you can call wildlife managers in the area, and honestly, like some people are great at giving information, some people are not.
For sure.
Right. So like that has been very hit or miss for me. But what I found is like, hey, I know somebody through somebody that lives there that duck hunts, and I'll just be like, hey, I don't want your spots, but I would just love to pick your brain about hunting in the area. This is what I learned.
Yeah.
What do you think? I don't go like, hey, Cal, like, I want to come out hunting.
Where do I go?
Yeah, like, and you just sound like it's just
For sure.
stupid. Versus like, hey, this is my plan. I'm gonna lay it out to you. Does this sound like a good idea?
Yeah. Well, and I'll give a tip too. One thing you can do is if you call those wildlife managers,
Yeah.
if you mark those waypoints of the public areas, it may sound foolish, but a lot of the time, in my experience at least, if I just call them and say like, hey, what is there anything I need to worry about if I come to the area and want to hunt this spot? And I'll give them like, so this is a spot. And what they'll do when you do that is they're not going to be like, that's a great spot, but they might say something like, oh yeah, that shouldn't be any trouble. Guys hunt that all the time.
Yeah.
Right? And most of the guys that are going in there, they use a boat and then they get in and out through that launch over there, and you pretty good access out of that spot. So no problem as long as you have your, this, and this. Well, now I just know right away. Now I know people hunt there.
Yeah.
Like I know that people are out there trying to be successful.
It's not stupid, right?
No. I mean, you're just trying to figure out, like, all I really want to know is if this guy is willing to tell me, hey, most of the guys, they're using this access point. It's totally legal. Just make sure you avoid this or avoid that. And a lot of the time too, you can ask them, especially if you're going into water or something, for like a safety thing.
You're right.
Where you're just like, what's the safest way to get in and out of that spot? And then they're going to tell you like, well, if you want to do it this way. That's just an easy way to like learn info quick.
Yeah, and it's a good icebreaker too, because it's like you've shown you've done the research. So it's like, hey, I want to go hunt, this area. You send them a waypoint, and they're like, what? And then you ask like, hey, how do I get in there? And then they'll start talking, and then they open up a little bit because it's not about the ducks; it's about like getting in there. And then it's like, then I'll be like, hey, have you ever, what's the story with this area here? And all of a sudden they open up about it, right?
Yeah.
Less, just building
less protective.
Yeah, just building rapport with them.
For sure. Once they figure out you're not like a jabroni,
right,
and you kind of know a little bit about what you're doing, you've done a little research, they appreciate that, in the sense that you're looking for a public, you're trying to figure out what's safe, you're trying to make smart moves.
Yeah.
Those guys appreciate that. They'd rather you do that and call them probably than just show up and wreck shit and make a mistake and screw up or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so like you said, you're breaking the ice.
Yeah,
so.
And the same thing goes with like asking people who hunt in the area. It's like if somebody calls me and lays out this plan and says, hey, I'm going to whatever, especially with bird hunting, like I'm going to South Dakota, this is the area I'm looking at. They'll send me a few waypoints in a folder and say like, hey, if I would go hunt this, what do you think? And I'd be like, yeah, that looks great. Or no, like I wouldn't do that. But then I feel much more inclined to be like, no, check, like look at, and whether it's an area I've been to or not, it's like, no, I'd maybe go try to find stuff like this.
Yeah. Just
because they've shown they've done the work and they want to learn. It's the people that just be like, where should I go? It's like, I don't really feel like you've invested no time in trying to help yourself.
Dude, I've had buddies call me from other states and stuff, right? And they'll send me an OnX waypoint and they'll say like, hey, I know this lake is public and guys have had good hunts here. I'm thinking about going here.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody just messages me and they're like, where should I go?
Yeah.
Dude, even if I want to tell you, man, it's tough for me to be like, yeah, me and all my buddies, I'm willing to give you that information right away. But if I know that you've already done some of this legwork, you're committed to coming, you have dates, and you've sent me something, now I'm like, I don't want this guy to get fucked. Like, I don't know if I'm going to give you my best spot.
No, but I'll at least tell you, like, no,
don't hunt that.
Don't hunt that. Or, like, hey, maybe go look at this area.
Yeah.
Right? Might not be the A spot, but at least it'll get you in the game.
Yeah,
and then once you get there, then it's a whole new ball game. You got to figure it out. But the thing is, like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? We've all went on trips and had shitty hunts, and shitty in terms of like maybe we didn't shoot as many as we would have expected. But can't tell you how many times where I've been to an area for the first time, might not have went great, but then I go back there again, and I might have met one or two locals the first time hanging out at the bar or wherever at the gas station, coffee shop, and all of a sudden, like, year 2, it's better. And then year 3, it's better. And you just keep getting more dialed in. So,
yeah, another thing you can do, too, by the way, is if you search a location on Instagram, some people legitimately will tag their location, right? And I'm not, so don't go to necessarily like that spot. I'm just saying, if you find a location and you're a good duck hunter and you message one of those guys and tell them what your plan is and ask them, hey, how can I make sure I'm being safe and smart, hunting this area? A lot of the time, too, when you're on water, especially if you're using a boat, there is a legit safety concern. I mean, like, if somebody was to hit me up and be like, well, I'm going to hunt the Mississippi River bottoms or something, I'd be like, you're going to hunt the Mississippi River in Wisconsin. You've never hunted it before. You don't know where you're going. Yeah. I don't know, man. I'd be pretty careful about where you're running that boat around.
Yeah, or just, like, don't think you can show up in the dark and just go.
Yeah.
Right?
Run it in the day first. That stuff is, like, super helpful, and it's an icebreaker.
Yep, exactly. Just get that conversation going.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so once you get all that, then it's just about, like, figuring out your crap you're bringing and who's going.
Right.
Where you're staying.
Yeah, and that's all of that. I mean, to me, that's all easy stuff. Like, once you have that initial plan, then you get there. All the hard work's done. Well, a lot of the hard work's done, in my opinion. Then it's just, like, getting there and putting in the effort to finding birds.
Yeah.
And the other thing with that is, like, if you're not finding birds there, don't be afraid to just abandon that plan completely.
For sure.
I do it all the time. It's like, this sucks. I'm going to go drive 100 miles this way and just try it out again.
Dude, don't be afraid to change hotels.
Yeah, no, I book hotels for one night.
Yeah.
And hope they have a late checkout policy. Yeah. And if it's great, then I'll stay. If not, deuces where
leave the key in the room, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, dude.
So.
Yeah, that's super helpful, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for all those tips. I do want to say a lot of guys I hear will say, I don't know where to start, right? This is a really good starting point.
Yep.
And I think it's what a lot of us that, like, travel a lot, that's kind of the method we use. Find water, find food.
Yep.
You find those two things, and then you find a little information on YouTube and other resources, refuge forums, whatever you're using. You can start to put together some pieces, man.
Yeah, and don't be intimidated, right? Like, I get it. It's time, it's money, but, like, if you want to do it, if you're committed to trying it, like, just do it. Like, nothing, well, I shouldn't say nothing bad will happen, but nothing bad should happen.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't die.
No, yeah, you just might have a shitty hunt.
Yeah.
But you're going to get better at it, like you said. By the third time, you got it dialed. You might know some locals. You might make a phone call. And yeah, man. So, all right, well, thanks for listening, guys. That should help you out, get you somewhere you've never been before. Thanks to Ben for coming on. Talk to you guys soon.